Hello, my friends. It's just me this week, Daniela Rabbani, the host of the Mom Curious podcast. So, Laura Lucetti, our amazing executive producer, has compiled a list of questions for moi, all surrounding solitude and motherhood. Thank you guys for submitting your questions, and thanks for listening. I've been watching a lot of these comedy specials. White Trash was very good, and then I also saw Hassan, I don't know his last name, but I saw his really good Netflix special. And last night Dan and I checked out Chelsea Handler's 2020 special, and it was basically a therapy session. I laughed, but I mostly cried. I laughed very little, and I cried a good amount because she was so. I felt like she needed to pay me between $150 to $250 for that hour. But, instead it was just like a date night on my couch with Dan and snacks. But what I'm learning from those is that, man, being honest and vulnerable is so healing for the audience. It's incredibly healing for the performer. I know this from experience. But to be part of the audience, just experiencing her open-heartedness, her truth, made me more honest with myself, which is what I'm really hoping, happens here. But watching that reminded me that the me-er and the freer I am, the me or the you-er and the freer you are, We're raising our consciousness together. We're raising ourselves, and some of us are raising children. Some of us have questions before we raise children, including, do moms only get solitude when they hide in their bathrooms, as it seems on IG and TV? So this is an interesting one because in a pandemic, in quarantine, in the shitstorm that is remote learning, yeah, that bathroom is my temple. I actually did cry also, the first few days of motherhood. There's something called the baby blues that sets in, where your hormones drop and then you just start crying. The matrix opens up, so there's that. But it can be embarrassing and a little weird, so I hid out in the bathroom there then too. But when I read this question, I'm reminded that we are not in normal times, that the past 2 years have been extremely taxing on mothers, extremely intense. Certainly here in New York, and I know around the world. And when we started filming these interviews, I really thought it was over. And I just want to say, wow. I didn't realize what an optimist I was until this pandemic, because I was like, oh, when's it going to be over? Oh, is it over now? Oh, is this the beginning of the end? Torture. Every pessimist I know, every hypochondriac I know was so well suited for this time. But moms, working moms and not working moms, all moms work, by the by. But moms across the board have just eaten shit So you're seeing the honest truth on Instagram and TV for this time. But in general, no. You can get alone time. Fuck yeah. If it's not a matter of like hired help, which I understand, either not being able to afford it or not wanting that, please, God, hand your baby off to a friend. Please, God, have friends, family, a partner if you have a partner. Claim that. Claim that for yourself. And when there's not a pandemic and the demands on parents during a pandemic, then I would say, those IG stories and TV scenes are dramatic. For a reason, they're captivating. Also, babies and toddlers, for real, preschoolers, I don't know about anybody else, but they fucking follow you into the bathroom. Like, who's getting alone time in there? Not me. I need to walk outside my house to feel alone. Unless my kids are in school. Thank God for school. Okay. Question 2 is, how do you keep old friends as your life paths shift? I just want to give you permission to press pause. If things are intense in the beginning of motherhood and you're just like not jiving, although it would be great if friends could come over and just have a relationship with your baby. If they're not into babies, okay. They could, take you to like that cool exhibit at your favorite museum, or go out to a restaurant together, or a movie, or like just go on a date, But if you don't want to because your life paths have just gone off into different directions, then that's okay. One of my dearest friends since I was 17 at NYU. I was 33 when I had Ness. When I was pregnant with Ness, I just felt really sensitive. And I also felt like my priorities were shifting. And I just felt really triggered by this friend. And we spoke honestly about it. It was uncomfortable. We paused our friendship. And years later, I reached out via email again and again saying, I'm sorry I hurt you. And I was sorry. I had reason, sure, but I missed her. And I clearly hurt her feelings. So I reached out and I apologized. And there's nothing like rupture and repair to remind you that like all is well. You are loved. People are good. It's happened several times over between me and dear friends. And that probably has more to do with me. But I say that anecdotally just so you know. It's okay if things shift. And it's okay if things shift right back. Nothing is permanent. How do you make new mom friends that fit into your new lifestyle that you actually like? Okay. I had the very lucky experience of having a baby about 3 or 4 months before my friend Chrissy. And then I moved right next door to her a year later, because that's how much I wanted, needed, enjoyed raising our babies together. That was ecstasy, guys. That was amazing. I have like really cute videos of Hazel and Ness making out when they were like 16 months old. Oh God, it was amazing. I'm going to post it on Instagram. It's going to be great. I don't think you can be coy or shy about these things. Like if your kids get along or they're around the same age, you got to go for it, especially with friends that you already love. When you're trying to make new friends, maternity leave is a great time, if you have it, to go to nursing classes. I didn't do that because, as we know, I had a whole fucking thing with the breastfeeding. But there are lactation classes, so that means that the babies are very, 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 very little. Who knows if that's a thing in a pandemic, but it's certainly on Zoom. It's got to be on Zoom. I went to RIE classes, Resources for Infant Educators. I knew I was just obsessed with respectful parenting, and I wept at those classes. I never made friends there, but I felt community. I felt like a bunch of people in this room and their kids were on the same page as me, which felt really healing. Other places, where you find like-minded people, could be your temple, could be a church, could be a mosque, a synagogue. That ended up being part of our story once we moved to Brooklyn. I don't think we turned into like such good friends, but like it was nice to just hang out with them. And then we live in a building where there are a lot of young families, which is really nice. And we moved from the West Village, which was mostly young professionals, like cool people, like really cool people and really cool restaurants and stuff. And we just realized like, oh, there definitely is a community here, and we're not like having play dates. So we moved to Brooklyn into a building full of kids, like little kids, little kids. And so actually recently we all had COVID. And so for a long time, we didn't see any of those kids. Like for like nearly 2 years, we just like, oh, hello, in the hallway or whatever. But now I'm actively inviting people over. I like the parents. I'm curious about them. I'm into it. And this Sunday, we just like stayed in our building and barefoot walked over to our neighbors who also had COVID recently and just hung out. I think neighbors are a biggie. And these people don't have to be your best friends. In fact, Chrissy was my best friend. And it was so intense. It was so amazing and intense. And like, I never wanted it to end. And then she moved and it ended. And it turns out I lived through it. It was really, really, really hard for me. But cute kids and their nice parents are good hangs. They pass the day really, if you could pass the day like with your kids hanging out with like other kids in the next room and like just getting to know someone and debriefing from the last 2 years of a pandemic, it's good. They don't have to be your favorite people. That's all I'm saying. All right, those were some ways that I found new friends. Hope that was helpful. You want to know how mother is alienating? Okay. How could partners be more supportive? Well, partners being more supportive, if you're in a partnership, that's like the whole point of being in a partnership, to support each other. Like this idea of, never finding alone time and having to hide in a bathroom is like very much tied to, wait, where's the other parent? If you're that desperately needing alone time, like, we got to get the other parent involved, Annalena Mark said it the best on episode 2 of the Mom Curious podcast. Please check it out. She said, you need a firm foundation. You need a solid foundation in a relationship before you become parents. Because it's going to fucking rock your world. It is. It's meant to. It's meant to evolve your consciousness. It's meant to turn you into an adult in a way that you might not have been before you were a parent. It's meant to change you, and it definitely changes the relationship. So how could partners be more supportive? By listening. I think, Dan and I just had this conversation where when one of us says, this is really important to me, it's incumbent on the other to say, okay, how can we make that work? Okay, how can we make that work? How is motherhood alienating? I never wanted to be I never wanted to be that mom that like posted all of her kids all over Instagram who lost herself. I never wanted to be the mom with the mom podcast. I think before I was a mother, I like looked at that mom and I was like, ew, where did you go? Ew. Yikes. And I don't want to be perceived that way. And by that way, I mean the way I am. I mean, it's true. I am in a big transition, And that this transition actually, it varies from person to person, and, length of time is variable. But when a baby is born, a mother is born. And then again. How is it alienating? It's so vulnerable. And, it's so funny. Like, I will be in a professional situation. I just did a reading. It's a lovely play. And I was introduced. And, like, somehow my big credit was that I was raising a family, which is true. But, like, I've also, been on this TV show and that TV, like, I've done other things. It feels minimizing. I'm sure he was trying to be respectful. I'm certain he was trying to be respectful. But it can feel minimizing. And I'm sure that has something to do with my own narrative. Please DM me and let's have this conversation. I clearly could use therapy on it. But it's alienating. It is what it is. How can a woman find her song, community, tribe, etc.? Hey, person with a metaphor. How can a woman find her song, community, tribe, etc.? Avital Schreiber says this in the 4th episode of the Mom Curious podcast, which you're listening to right now. You have to be pig-headed about making community. Pig-headed. Stubborn. You have to go for it. You have to. I'm constantly putting myself out there fine. You're going to reject me. That's totally cool. On to the next. Or we don't really get along that well. Okay, on to the next. I just don't think that we can take this lying down because we don't live in a society that's built to combat the solitude in motherhood. We're still in an extremely patriarchal system where like somehow it's all, well, maybe not all, but somehow there's a lot on the woman. A lot. And we were not built physically, mentally, spiritually, etc., to do this alone. I think that's why I started this also, if I'm being honest. For me, for my own tribal community needs and wants and desires to wrap my arms around other women. And if in this digital world, if this is the way to do it, then all right, let's do this, okay? But you can't take it lying down. You know what I'm saying? Please don't. Can I just thank you for your listening, for your being curious about motherhood and everything else you're curious about? It is like the most magnificent quality. Curiosity. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time on the Mom Curious podcast. For more episodes, make sure to follow Mom Curious, available on all podcast platforms. Thanks.